In an alternate universe, the UFC games wouldn't be made by EA Sports. They'd still be developed by an underrated but now beloved gaming company, THQ. Now, getting back to reality, we seem to be overdue for a UFC EA Sports 5 release, and there's no doubt EA has the firepower to give us the game we want. But we can't help but feel a little discouraged since the last release of UFC 4 was a complete downgrade. From the gameplay aspect, it was much more stiff, the shots had less impact, and the ground and pound was deficient and powerless. Then to make things worse, they added unnecessary features, emotes and skins, obviously as an attempt to appeal to the younger players. However, we are getting closer to the rumored UFC 5 release. So, now I want to focus on some of the things that UFC 5 needs, and things that we want. The first thing seems to be a point in which people don't seem to focus enough, which is the fact that none of the UFC games have ever released on PC. From UFC Undisputed 2009 to UFC 4, PC players have always been neglected by EA. I don't know if anybody remembers, but FIFA 22 on PC did not get a next-gen update like PlayStation and Xbox did. At least though you can play FIFA on your PC, but no luck with UFC, so this is very key for the next release, and apparently, we might be lucky enough this time. A roster with more fighters is also something that many people would love. There are plenty of unknown world-class athletes in the UFC, but they don't get added to the game because of a lack of popularity. Sean Brady, Chaos Williams, Daniel Rodriguez, and so many more unranked fighters. How come in FIFA you see all players ranging from bronze to gold, but in UFC you only see the known athletes? We would definitely love an increased roster in UFC 5. It seems as though the UFC games have gotten worse as far as striking goes. UFC 2, in my opinion, had the best striking out of the 4 releases. It just felt more effective, fluid, and impacting. Any technique from spinning wheel kicks to hooks really felt much better back then. UFC 4 is atrocious. Strikes feel weak, have no impact, and there's no satisfaction at all when you land. They're also really stiff. I don't know what EA was thinking with this release. What we need is better impact, more fluidity, like UFC 2 offers. Strikes just really feel more loose in there. These two things will make striking a lot better and improve the game in a big way. We also would want more visible damage. This ranges from blood to broken bones. Just imagine being in a bloodbath fight or seeing a broken leg. UFC Undisputed kinda touches on this. They have a lot more visible damage than UFC 4, and it just makes the game feel a lot more realistic. It would be amazing to see things like face swelling, cuts, and black eyes. Now, leg breaks would also be very key. If your opponent checks too many of your kicks, you should have kinda like a danger bar that shows how susceptible you are to a leg injury. Then if it really is high and you get checked once again, it's likely that your leg snaps. Not only does this add new depth, but it makes the game feel more like a real fight. We really are in need of much better knockouts. How come I can get dropped by overhand rights time after time and get up like nothing? Now, if you have Nate Diaz, then yes, or someone like Colby Covington. But not every fighter can take punishment like that. A limit on knockdowns, depending on shot impact, would also be a great addition. Also, the knockouts sometimes look weird, especially ground and pound knockouts. When it comes to this, EA should guide themselves using UFC 2 and Undisputed 3 gameplay. There's times where you may get flash knocked out or TKO'd on ground and pound. You shouldn't have to get knocked out on ground and pound for the referee to step in. What we need is TKOs, flash knockouts, and ragdoll effects, but not really too exaggerated. A personal choice is hype celebrations, on last minute finishes especially. Using FIFA as an example, if you score during the last minute, the crowd will go wild and the camera will shake uncontrollably, and players will gain a boost of adrenaline and celebrate with a lot more hype. Having this on UFC 5, kinda like the Leon Edwards finish, or Jairzinho vs Overeem, where Jairzinho knocked out Overeem in the last couple of seconds of the fight. Just a personal detail. And finally, a graphic improvement. It's hard to believe that UFC 4 had a graphic downgrade, almost Ubisoft style. But it happened. The next release of UFC 5 is rumored to be in mid-2023, so by then, we'll almost be halfway into what we believed 3 years ago as next gen. No excuses anymore. We need a next gen graphical improvement. We actually want the fighters to look themselves, rather than, for example, Conor McGregor on UFC 4 does not look like him at all. It's just ridiculous. On a game that was released in 2020 when the PS5 had come out, but I understand that the game was mainly developed for the PS4 and Xbox One. But now there's absolutely no excuses. The PS5 and the Xbox Series X have been out for 2 to 3 years, so it'll be time for them to actually improve the graphics like never before. And these are just some things that I feel like people would enjoy. I handpicked these out of many different choices, and I just felt like these were some of the most entertaining ones to see. Obviously, there are a lot more things out there to add, but this just really gets us moving in the right direction. UFC 4 was honestly the worst of the 4 installments, so it only feels like we can only go up from here.